We've been reading a number of readings here from Luke chapter 13. There's been 906, 907, 908, 909, 910, WRNL, old radio station I used to work for. But to consider what all these things are talking about, what goes on here, it's like after I read this first passage here, I did the thoughts where I said that God is not a respecter of persons, and He is not. If we want to puff ourselves up and think that we are deserving of God's love and attention because of what race we're from, what race we are of, what nationality, from whence we hail, sorry, don't impress God. Look here, it says, and behold, there are last which shall be first, and there are first which shall be last. Who are the first chosen people of God? This is what Jesus is talking about in most of these things. It's the nation of Israel, those who say, we be of Abraham's seed. Okay, well, like here's talking about seeds here. Mustard seed. Okay. I know it's talking about a tree, but so is a lot of this stuff. Family trees. Speak more plainly. Some folks, I do believe we're supposed to, honor the nation of Israel, the Jews. I love Jewish people. I've got hundreds of them as friends on Facebook, and I hope I get more. But, just because you're a Jew doesn't mean you curry favor with God. You do, or you did, because that was the line from which Christ came, from the Jews. Well, now Christ came. Christ suffered for all men. And, look, Jesus came to the lost sheep of Israel, right? Look at this parable. He says, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Jesus' ministry was 3 years. But then the mercy of God says, let it alone this year also. Thou shalt dig about it and dung it, and if it bear fruit, well, and if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down. Now I'm not about to begin to even express what all this means, but I can tell you this. As you hear these messages, these passages, Jesus is talking in relation to the Jews and those who He was going to let in, the Gentiles. Because salvation is for all. Remember when Jesus spoke with the woman at the well, she said, salvation is of the Jews. Jesus didn't argue with that. But Jesus said the time is coming now is when men will worship God in spirit. Don't matter what nationality, doesn't matter what color, doesn't matter. None of those things actually ever did matter. God always allowed whoever to worship Him. Look in the Old Testament. There was nations of folks that came along. There was Egyptians at times that God had spoken through and who had to correct some of the folks in Israel. With something where they were off. Or there was the Queen of Sheba, that came along. To Solomon, there was different ones who Nebuchadnezzar ended up giving praise to God before his death. God's always allowed anybody in, but it's more so and especially after the act and the great salvation of Jesus, which we're going to be getting to as we continue to plot our way through the chapters of each of the Gospels. We're still going to be in Luke 13 for the next one, 9:11. Well, that's a significant number. But let's find out how significant it is in my own little silly numbering system of the Chronological Bible. That's coming up next.